We're ready? We are ready. All right. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 27 of Convos on the Pedicab. I'm here with a very special guest. He's actually a podcast host himself, the host of the ATX Councilman, right?
Austin City Councilman.
The Austin City Councilman, Brad
I am
Swail.
the Austin City
He
Councilman.
is the Austin City Councilman, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get started, we just want to give a shout out to our sponsor, 10th Planet Austin, 10PATX. Get woke and improve your jiu-jitsu at the same time. You know, there's a lot of civil unrest going on right now, so there's no better time than now to really learn how to intelligently defend yourself. We have a phenomenal jiu-jitsu program. We also have great MMA programs, a great Muay Thai, taught by Kyle Baim and Andrew Craig, respectively. Kyle Baim's number 5 jiu-jitsu practitioner in the world. Andrew Craig, he is former UFC fighter. Great people, great group. We're across the street from the Onnit Gym. We have phenomenal supplements, and there's a great open-minded training environment where you can really get better in a very non-threatening way, doing it at your own pace. We're on 71 and I-35, so if you're in that area, come by. 10 Planet Austin, 10 PATX. We also offer great discounts for our law enforcement because, you know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training or Jiu-Jitsu training for LEOs is essential. But anyway,
Yeah.
Brett, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate having you.
Is it ever too late to start MMA?
No.
I mean,
Never
I'm
too late.
35. I don't know if I want the big cauliflower ears, but I guess that's like a rite of passage, right?
I guess so.
You have cauliflower ears.
I have a little cauliflower ear.
a little bit. I
little
didn't
bit.
notice that till now.
Now you know.
Yeah, you're.
I mean,
If I saw that on the street, I would know never to fight you.
Well, I'm a lover, not a fighter. The only thing I'm trying to do is fight the social and economic injustices of Austin, Brett. That's all we're trying to do here.
That's great. That's we're on the same team.
We are on the same team. So you started this podcast. Tell me about this podcast you started, because we have a very similar thing that we're doing. Both of us, we want to bring people together. There's a lot of like unrest, uncertainty. There's a lot of manufactured division, and it's gotta stop, because if it doesn't stop, we're gonna fall into total chaos. We're not gonna have a country anymore.
Yeah. Well, we won't have a country like we do currently, but for sure. Maybe there would be some sort of split. I don't know. And maybe that's not the worst thing in the world. If you're not in a loving relationship, then perhaps a parting of ways would be best. I'm not sure. I'm not saying that's what I want. But, yeah, the podcast is called Austin City Councilman. It's similar to yours in the sense that, I talk to local politicians, business leaders, really anybody that
Wants to talk to you, yeah.
Yeah, well, not anybody that wants to talk to me. I don't. Like probably anybody. I don't know.
Yeah,
probably,
almost anybody. We're on the same page. I'll talk to almost anybody who wants to talk to me.
Yeah, almost anybody for sure. But I also do some commentary shows, like a little short, like 20. I try to keep it around 20 minutes, just like commentary on the news of the day. If I don't have any interviews lined up that day or that week or something like that, then I'll scroll through the Statesman and, as Teddy Roosevelt likes to call it, the commie call.
Oh, that's the Chronicle. That's the
Chronicle, yeah.
Yeah, the Statesman is like the awful American news Statesman. Something, I don't know what it is, but it's just
Awful News of the Week awards.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, honestly, I'm getting my news more from Teddy Roosevelt and Johnny K than I am from actual news.
Well, yeah, especially Johnny K with his FOIA requests. I mean,
Yeah.
you're getting like actual information, and he's not filtering it through his own bias. He's just saying like, "Hey, this is what I found. Here's some highlights that I thought was interesting."
Gannett Media isn't telling him what to write, and whoever owns the Chronicle, I'm sure it's some mega corporation.
What media?
Gannett Media owns the Statesman. It's like a big
I didn't know
mega
that.
corporation owned by these multi-billionaires. They were like on the board of like BlackRock and all
Yeah.
that shit. So yeah, like that's who owns the Statesman. Like that's who you got to answer to.
Yeah.
And then I don't know exactly who owns the Chronicle, but they're not an independent newspaper anymore.
I have no idea. I haven't picked up a Chronicle in forever.
I mean, I could be wrong, but this is what I believe to be true.
Like I said earlier, I'm not lying, but I might be wrong.
Exactly. That's how I feel. I'm not lying, but I might be wrong. And Brad has a phenomenal podcast, the Austin City Councilman. You should check it out. It's very similar. You've talked to a lot of candidates. Have you actually ever talked to a sitting city council member or a member of the state legislature, any of that stuff?
No, I've reached out to city council members. I've reached out to my own city council member. I've released the voice messages that I've left for Paige Ellis on the show. And to be fair, the first time I emailed her, her media person did email me back and just said, no, she doesn't have time. I'm like, I responded very quickly. I said, well, I'm on no schedule. We can schedule this out 2-3 weeks from now. I don't know. Is she really that busy? But I even asked, like, hey, could I just give you some questions in writing? Could I get something in writing? And just no response.
No,
Ghosted.
Yeah, ghosted. It's like you're on a Tinder date and you get stood up.
Heartbroken.
It is heartbreaking, especially when these are your city council members who are literally supposed to listen to you.
Yeah.
And if they're not listening to you, why are they representing you?
Right, and that's I talk about this sometimes on the show. That one of the reasons why I lean more conservative is that, when it comes to the federal government, it's so difficult to get my opinion heard, to get my voice heard. Not only because of physical distance, but just because of the sheer amount of people that they're representing. Like I could never get a meeting with Donald Trump unless I saved a veteran from drowning or something like that. It would take some sort of miracle, and so it's really hard for me to change his opinion. But when it comes to city council and local, hyper local politics like this, it should be excessively easy to get in touch with them and at least feel like you're heard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. 150% you should feel that way.
Yeah.
Actually, Delia was not bad about getting in touch.
Delia Garza?
Yeah, Delia Garza was not that bad about being in touch with her. I tried to get in touch with her when the pandemic first started.
Yeah.
About waiving permitting fees for pedicabs and whatnot.
Yeah.
She got back to me a day. I mean,
That's
nothing
great.
happened. They didn't waive the permitting fees or do anything.
Yeah.
But she still got back to me. And I talked to one of her staff members on the phone in June about trying to get them to not do any more restrictions. And I explained my perspective on that about the protests. And I'm like, look, man, if you do these restrictions right now, considering how these protests were all occurring, they're going to just blame the protesters. It's just going to create more racism. That's not what you should be doing. And she was like, yeah, I kind of agree with that. And she was really cool, right?
Yeah.
So not every council member is bad. Delia was actually, from when I've tried to talk to her, she was actually okay at responding.
Yeah. So not every council member is bad at responding. You mean to say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Not everyone. Alger's pretty cool about responding and talking to me.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think so, but she's great.
I don't know. I mean, I've reached out to Flanagan, Kassar, Ellis, and Adler, and Kitchen. Those are the only people
I don't
I've
think
reached
Kitchen's
out.
responding to anybody. I think she's too hopped up on Xannies to. I mean, not to not to say any unfounded stuff, but would you be like, dude, remember that tweet when Adam Lowy wrote oh, Greg Kassar's in his castle, in his little castle in East Austin, cackling, smoking a joint at the thought of being mayor when Adler went to Cabo. Do you remember that tweet?
Yeah, and then D. Austin Sanders
said it was racist. I'm like, okay, but
well, he called it a racist dog whistle.
yeah, but then at the same time, it's you could just say the same thing about Ann Kitchen's probably super barred out on Xannies to respond to your request to meet her. It's it's just about you just make these stereotypes based on how you judge people on the surface,
Yeah, well, in my point about the racist dog whistle is that the nature of a dog whistle is that only the dog can hear it. So if it's a racist dog whistle, only the racist can hear it.
So I guess you heard it, right? Yeah.
So I didn't hear it when Adam Lowy tweeted that.
I don't think it was racist at all, but it's
right.
When
but D. Austin Sanders heard it.
Right, but dude, when you manufacture all this stuff, it undermines real racism.
Absolutely.
And then when real racism starts occurring, you're oh, I don't even believe that that's real anymore because of all the manufactured outrage that's being perpetuated.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
And that's dangerous, man.
According to some, I don't know what percentage, but I would imagine it's not an insignificant amount here in Austin, but just two white guys sitting here talking.
I'm a Jew, dude. I'm actually the most oppressed person in this room right now.
Are you?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, dude, historically speaking.
Okay, well, historically speaking, how far in history do we want to go?
Forever in history. Even 70 years ago in the 1940s.
Yes, of course, in the 1940s, absolutely. There's no question.
Same, bro. We got,
Right, but, okay, well, I mean, I guess, how are we defining, whatever, we don't need to get into,
I'm just saying, dude, the white supremacists, they don't even think I'm white, Brad.
Looking at you, they would think that you would be
I
white. You would be, I think,
I have a Star of David tattoo on my right shoulder.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah. So, speak for yourself, oppressor.
Yeah. So I guess I should be the last person to talk, based on.
Check your privilege, bro. No.
I rode in the pedicab on the way here. Now I feel guilty. Maybe I should have offered to ride.
Oh no,
drive for you.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. We were talking about something else though, about the whole racist stuff though. Just back on track. It is dangerous though when you're accusing people who don't agree with you of being racist. That is dangerous. That is extremely dangerous. What's happening, and I feel like that's happening in the District 6 race specifically.
Yes, it seems like Jimmy Flanagan is throwing that term around pretty willy-nilly.
Yeah, and
You and I both talked to Luis
we talked about
Rodriguez.
this, yeah, like he does not like. Look, man, Luis Rodriguez is pro legalization. He supports sex workers. He's pro gay marriage. He's pro LGBTQ.
Yeah.
And he's pro choice on abortion.
Yeah.
I'm like, literally, this is like the least bigoted person, at least from this interview, right?
Yeah.
From me doing this interview, he comes across like the least bigoted person that you could ever encounter, right? And yeah, maybe there's some stuff I don't know about. And I got that guy Kevin McCarthy, or something, one of those
Kevin
guys.
McKee?
Yeah,
Kevin McKay?
Kevin McKay coming on in a couple weeks, and he was trying to say
He's coming on the show?
He's gonna come on in a couple weeks. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So maybe he'll clarify some stuff about me. But as like from what I know right now, he seems like one of the least bigoted people that I've met.
Well, you should
you know?
trust your intuition.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think that if he was bigoted, he would probably have shown it in some way. I don't. Maybe he's a great actor. I don't know.
Maybe.
But I mean, I talked to him as well, and I mean, he does really great things. You know, helping kids that are victims of bullying and all this other stuff. I mean,
he teaches
they do work.
entrepreneurship to prison inmates.
Yeah.
He like.
And I don't know if you checked the statistics on prison inmates; they're not all white. I mean,
No.
he's reaching out
To people of
to populations that are at risk.
Well, dude, there's also like more diversity in that motorcycle group than there is in Jimmy Flanagan's anti-racism staff.
Yeah, definitely. I would
Like
assume so.
so there's a lot of stuff like that people need to like be a little bit more aware of. But just to be empathetic to Jimmy, I get where he's coming from. Like I understand to a
On
point,
what?
right? On being sensitive to certain things that maybe me or you might not be as sensitive to. Because look, man, Jimmy Flanagan's a gay man who is a lot older than us, or looks a lot older than us.
Sorry,
and,
Jimmy.
Yeah, like Jimmy Flanagan probably grew up and was a young adult in the 1980s and the 1990s.
Yeah.
Where like real homophobia and real bigotry.
I don't think he's that old, but yeah.
He was definitely going clubbing in like the 90s. I'm sure he was going clubbing in like
Maybe,
the 90s,
yeah,
right?
okay.
Maybe late 80s, right? I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't know. I just have a feeling.
Okay,
he's
but
not
like,
that old, but whatever.
Okay, but he was going clubbing and going partying and doing stuff at a different time period than we were.
Sure.
Like me and you, we grew up in an era, in a time where things were extremely accepting of everybody. Nobody cares,
Yeah.
right? Like this is how we grew up. We grew up in an area where like nobody cares what color you are, at least from our peers, right? Like our peers don't seem to care about like what your sexual orientation is. They don't even care that much about what gender you are, like or whatever, like what gender you choose to identify yourself as, right? Like it doesn't seem like people in our age group really care that much about these issues. But back when Jimmy was young, that was an issue, man. Like people used to get their ass beat for being gay. Like Matthew Shepard got killed in the late 1990s by a bunch of kids at his high school because he liked dudes. And it's like when you grew up with that type of stuff like that happening to you, and you may have been like scared to actually come out because you're going to get disowned by your family, or you're going to like get beat up by people in your town or in your community, or like where you went just to high school, or you're like, you didn't know if you'd be able to get a job or whatnot, or have a job because of your sexual orientation. Like those wounds don't really go away. So like I empathize with where he's coming from, because he probably had to deal with this stuff at a different time period. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, that's definitely fair. I mean, in the 80s and 90s, it was certainly to be homosexual in America was a much more dangerous proposition than it is today, for sure.
100%, yeah.
And so
yeah.
if that's what he lived through, then that shaped his psyche and his experience. Absolutely. Then he deserves some sort of empathy for his life and his experiences. Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that he gets a pass for calling just
anybody,
calling people.
yeah, for just throwing the R word or calling people bigots willy-nilly to like boost his to be like politically self-serving. I'm just trying to give the benefit of the doubt, because you don't know everybody's lived experiences.
Sure.
And it's one of those things where like, hey man, you might actually be worried about that because of what you've lived through. And I think it's up to us and up to people. Like, look man, if Mackenzie wins, like there is still an onus to just not let that shit ever come back. Like, we should never let, like, real bigotry or real homophobia or real racism or real, like, hatred of any kind ever, like, circulate again.
Yeah, I don't.
You know what I mean? Like, that's.
I just don't even know what the risk of that actually is happening. I agree with you. Like, I don't want those things to come back in full force either. But if you listen to the likes of Jimmy Flanagan, it seemed the way he puts it, the way that he talks about it, it's like it's always just right around the corner. And we're just if it weren't for him, then we'd have racists and homophobes running around the streets of Austin.
We'd have Klan rallies in downtown. Yeah. I get all that. And then, like I said, he's kind of weaponizing it. I don't like how it's being weaponized.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of these developers are doing it because it's like, hey, look, co-op progressive rhetoric and get these developer displacement-friendly candidates in office. It just seems like a psychological trick that they're trying to do. But I still ultimately want to be empathetic, and a person like Jimmy Flanagan has had a different lived experience than somebody like me or you has had, and I think just empathy towards that can go a long way towards making people not feel as scared about something like that.
Well, sure, I agree with you that we should have empathy for him if that's his lived experience. But when you're a public official, then you should be held to a different standard because your words have weight.
Dude, 100%. Listen, I don't want him to win. All right, like I want Mackenzie. Like I don't want him to win this race.
So when he weaponizes that against citizens that he's supposed to be representing, then that to me is unforgivable.
And I agree with that. That makes sense. And I can only imagine like somebody calling me that. It would. Dude, those are fighting words. Like you can't call somebody like that. You can't call people that unless you're
racist or a homophobe.
Both. Like you can't call people like when you call people stuff like that. Like that's doxing them. Like you're undermining their safety. When you do that, especially with how like tense things are right now, like you got to be very careful when you call people words like that for two reasons. A, you're literally undermining their safety and whatnot. And B, if people throw that shit around way like too often, it's less likely to be believed, and then when real racism occurs, real bigotry occurs, it becomes like, oh, yeah, you're the boy who cried wolf. So there's got to be a balance. But that being said, it's like, it doesn't seem like a very difficult thing to go off and say, hey, man, racism is bad, bigotry is bad, like homophobia is bad. And like if you see like evidence of real bigotry, you should stop that no matter where you are on the political spectrum. Yeah. I
agree.
That's the rant, and I think that it's just people need to hear that. People are still scared, dude. There's a lot of like fear being perpetuated by corporate media that it's all around the corner too, and just there's got to be a backlash to say no, dude. Everybody hates that stuff.
Right, I agree with you, and I think that, like I said, a elected official should be held to a different standard than just a private citizen. Where if he's weaponizing that against his constituents and just the citizens of Austin in general, then that's unforgivable. I cannot, if Starbucks is doing the same thing, I cannot go to Starbucks, but I can't say Jimmy Flanagan, vote no. He's not going to listen to me. You know what I mean? Like I have no control over that.
Well, and also Jimmy didn't want to go on my podcast either.
Jimmy didn't respond to me either.
Yeah. Dr. Jen went on and Mackenzie went on.
Yeah, I talked to both of them too.
Yeah. So I mean, if either of them got elected, I'd be happy because they listen to me and they talk to me and they respond when I say, like that's all you want from a city council member. I don't. Liberal, conservative, when it comes to local politics, I don't care.
Yeah.
The only thing that matters to me is whether I feel like I'm being listened to.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite episodes was when I talked to Jack Craver, who is he has a newsletter that's escaping me right now.
The Austin Monthly or something like that?
Austin something newsletter. Yeah, but he's on the opposite side of the aisle.
He's like super urbanist. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a really good time talking to him because he is, there wasn't a whole lot that we agreed on.
Yeah.
But it was still like a cordial conversation. It gave me practice, like talking through my arguments. I understood his arguments better, and it was a lot of fun.
And not everybody who's on an opposite side of you is going to be like totally different from you. Like not everybody who has an opposing belief set. It doesn't mean that there aren't going to be a couple things from their belief set that you could adopt to make your situation better.
Sure, and at the very least, I get to understand where they're coming from and be more empathetic towards them.
Exactly, and that's an important thing. Like I'm excited to talk to was it Kevin McKay, right?
I've never. He has tweeted at me. He tweeted at me earlier today.
Like no, I'm really excited to talk to him. Actually,
but I think
I'm super pumped to talk to him because I love talking to people who deviate from like the guests that I'm usually having. Like I'm really excited. So if you're listening, Kevin, I'm pumped about doing this.
Yeah, well, he tweeted. I considered actually doing the same thing, inviting him on because he tweeted that my show with Luis Rodriguez was boring.
You should reach out to him, send him a DM, and try to get him on.
I might. I don't know, but I always kind of think in my head, should I engage with these people online?
No, just send him a private message. I sent Kevin a private message. Is what I did. I just was like, hey. He's like, invite me on and I'll tell you whatever I feel like misconceptions about Luis. And I'm like, okay. So I just literally DM'd him right on the spot.
Yeah.
And then, so we got to set something up. I've got a lot of people that are coming on these next couple weeks. So I just got to find some time and make it happen. But 100% want to do it.
Yeah.
And you should get Jacob Aronowitz to talk to you too.
Have you talked to him?
I mean, I'm like I said, like I've hung out with him before, like in the past, like
before, like this podcast, like in like a bygone era.
I mean, I was that like political union, that UPO like political canvassing union.
I think so.
Man, I was in that union for a minute because of the Permian Highway Pipeline.
Okay.
Because they were trying to build that gas pipeline through the hill country and all that stuff, and like he's one of the people in charge of it. And I don't want there to be look, I think oil and gas jobs and stuff like that are necessary, and they pay a lot of people a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I don't want that going through my neighborhood. I don't want that going through the San Marcos River. I don't want that going through the Blanca River. I don't want that going through anywhere I'm gonna go like fishing at.
Yeah.
And it can possibly mess with like the soil in terms of you growing food and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And like, so I joined that union, and I like did a little bit of canvassing, not that much, but I did a little bit where I like handed out flyers and brought awareness to people in the neighborhood about like stopping this pipeline.
Yeah.
And so I met Jacob because he's one of the people in charge, and Jacob is awesome. Like Jacob is a cool person. Like there's certain things he might disagree with, but like from me interacting with him face to face, Brad.
Well, so yeah, I mean, what makes someone cool? I mean, they may be fine to hang out with in person because they might. But what I've seen, and if Jacob is watching this, I haven't seen everything. Obviously, I'm not claiming to, but he's, the things that I've seen, it doesn't seem like a cool person in the sense that he wants to like, destroy.
He wants to bring the whole system down.
But he wants to rise. He wants a communist revolution.
You should talk to him. Listen,
I should, yeah.
You should talk. Listen, one thing about somebody like Jacob, and it's the same thing about people like Jennifer Fleck and whatnot, right? Is like they stick to their guns.
Yeah.
Like they will and that's very admirable. Like whatever Jacob will tell you online, he will tell you in person and justify it with he will justify why he feels that way with like facts or literature or other alternative sources. Like he will justify it, and he will back even though like there's stuff I don't agree with him on, he will still back his words up, and he like backs up what he says, and it would be a good episode. Reach out to him. It'll be an interesting episode.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to him.
Reach out. At the very least, we all agree that we should be legalizing weed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, well, yeah. I'm not. Yes and no. Yes, it should be legal, but it shouldn't be just the city of Austin no longer is just going to not criminalize it.
No, they should tax it. Like it should
be
like
the state and the federal level should decriminalize it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if they don't do that, then the city of Austin still needs to do something because then you invite, because it creates a black market, and within the black market other crimes happen as well, and so then you're inviting other criminal elements to Austin where they can get away with
because of marijuana.
I mean, certainly the cartels or drug or gangs or anything
marijuana.
They deal marijuana. Where do you think marijuana comes from?
People can just grow that like in their backyard.
I agree with you.
Like,
I have nothing against marijuana. I've smoked marijuana on many occasions. I for some reason I can't get into it nowadays, but I would be a 100% push for legalization on a state and federal level. I just think there are risks to doing it to where you say it's no longer criminalized in this small city when everything around it is.
Yeah, but I also, and we're going to talk about our police too.
Okay.
And I don't think that police should enforce tyrannical orders like masks and social distancing. And one of those tyrannical orders is also pulling people over for smoking weed because it's a plant that's designed to help you.
Right. So, I think there's a difference between the masks and the marijuana, because the mask, there's no other criminal element to a mask. You know what I mean? Like there's no gang violence around or cartels or anything like that. But when it comes to drugs, there is.
Well, for real drugs, but I don't see like.
Just because you don't see it doesn't mean. I mean, there's certainly, if it's an illegal trade, then there's a black market, and within the black market,
the black market is your buddy goes to Colorado and drives over to state lines from Colorado with their bud. That's it. Like it's your friend going to Colorado. There's no cartel like that.
Yes, in that case, for sure. I agree with you.
Yeah, all right.
I don't think that it should be. I don't think it should be a crime to smoke marijuana. I think that there are better ways to go about decriminalizing it or making it legal than others. I don't think it's.
Anyway, point being, there probably going to be some stuff that you and Jacob both agree on.
Probably.
And it's always good to bridge gaps and actually talk to people who you think are really different from you, but then ultimately there are more commonalities than not. Because I think that there is like a big like push at the top to keep us fighting amongst one another, and I think the best way to stop that is to try to come together and talk to people who you otherwise wouldn't necessarily think you'd agree with or get along with.
Yeah, no, I'm all about it for
All right.
sure.
Reach out.
And if I'm wrong about the marijuana thing, then I'm wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong. Like I said, I would rather it be legal than illegal.
Yeah.
For sure. Legalize, do it.
They
Write your congressman.
We should. I fully agree. Go to the lobby of the state legislature. I'm sure half these people in the state legislature wouldn't care anymore. Like it's a people are changing now when it comes to stuff.
Yeah, I think that it'll probably happen this session or next. I would think.
Plus, with all the tax revenue, like how good that would be for tax revenue if they started legalizing it in Texas.
Yeah, it would be good.
Really good, yeah.
I shudder to think of what they might use that tax revenue for, but yeah,
It still would be better than you paying taxes. Like, you know what I mean? Like it.
Yeah. Sure.
That's my take on it. Where were we? What were we talking? We were talking about Mackenzie. We were talking about.
Did we talk about Mackenzie?
Well, no, we didn't talk about Mackenzie. We talked about the race.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
talked about Jimmy.
Yeah.
We talked about the WTFers, and we talked about our news. I'm trying to think. We got to talk about the police contract, dude. They got this new police. They're gonna looks like they're gonna get a new cadet class.
Yeah, and it's going to be the most diverse class, diverse class ever, according to Adler. Never mind the one that he just canceled was the most
diverse class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, these games that they play they drive me crazy.
Yeah, I think that one of the things though that's kind of like one of the accidental like good things that came from this is that it's kind of like made the cops just want to stand with the people more.
Yeah, I think
Like-
this and the whole pandemic response, shutting down small businesses, the mask mandates, all
I saw
that
your
stuff.
interview with that police officer, by the way,
Officer
Officer
Sam.
Sam, yeah, and he was like, yeah, man, if people aren't gonna open and disobey and not comply, we're not gonna stop them. And I'm just like,
that made me so happy.
Yeah, that's great. Like that shows that you're standing with the people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean the fact that he cancels the most. This is what I'm talking about. It's weaponizing this diversity, weaponizing racism, all this other stuff. To the Adler is canceling one cadet class that's the most diverse, and now he's touting that this new one that he's going to do is going to be the most diverse. And if anybody else did that, if you or I did that, we would be called racist for canceling the most diverse the most diverse cadet class. And it really seems like Adler is gunning for a higher office.
Well, not anymore after you went to Cabo.
I don't know. I don't know that that's going to matter. I really don't. I mean, how many scandals do politicians go through and they're still elected?
They're still elected. Especially. Yeah, I mean, but
Like,
we have a
Austin's
pretty
gonna
active.
remember. You and I are gonna
We have a
remember.
pretty active citizenry in Austin. I mean, like the recall petition, like they're like 25% done already.
Yeah,
20,
they're doing great.
yeah, like you're doing really good. Paige Ellis, the signatures for Paige are that's actually the T-shirt. Your minute is up. So stopadler.com. That's the website you can go to. But Paige Ellis, like her thing is 50% full already.
I think it's more than 50%. Yeah, I'm pumped.
Yeah.
Miss Ellis, if you're listening, maybe I would change my mind if you would respond to my phone calls or emails.
Perhaps, right? But
I think that's what I heard was that when people sign the petition, is that their main complaint is that she does not respond.
yeah, you're just an absent city council person. Like that's not okay.
Yeah.
And you need a government that's going to try to talk to you or do the best they can to talk to you.
Yeah, I mean they have a monopoly on so many services that there should be an obligation to.
Yeah.
They're taking your money.
And then they're also telling you can't work and operate your business and do all that stuff, right? Because of this virus, and it's just
There's a virus?
yeah, allegedly, right? I mean, listen, I'm
Allegedly.
look, I'm wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Just because you're not wearing one doesn't mean that I'm not going to wear them because I want you to feel safe, Brad, and that's why I'm
Well, this mask in particular makes me feel safe from all bad guys.
real heroes wear face coverings.
Yeah, the pandemic response has been abysmal, and the fact that they keep moving the goalposts and all this other stuff it's insanity.
Well, dude, this guy closed nature in the beginning. Like he closed the parks.
Yeah,
Like you closed nature, and then like they talk about like the environment and environmental racism, and it's like, well, how do we fight that? Let's charge people $10 to go to the greenbelt.
Did
I'm
they
like,
ever charge
yeah,
people?
they were charging people $10 at one point in time to go to the greenbelt.
That didn't last long, did it?
Yeah, I don't even know if it's still going on, but they were charging people $10 to go to the greenbelt, and it's like, oh, so you're just gonna like literally exclude poor like communities of color from like enjoying nature? Great, But that Black Lives Matter sign on the side of the road really makes up for it,
Yeah, well, all of those tens of dollars that they gain from the going to the greenbelt, they use to paint that sign.
I suppose.
So there you go.
I
I actually didn't know that they charge money. That must not have lasted very long. But I mean, I went to the greenbelt, and I mean, I had my headphones on. I was going to go run the Hill of Life or whatever, and some young lady that's working there stopped me and said, "Hey, did you make a reservation?" Like, no, I've been going to this greenbelt my entire life.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is
nature. You shouldn't have to make a reservation to be nature.
This is community property here. Like, we all pay for, and like, this is our space. This is what makes Austin
don't
great.
your taxes like help pay for stuff like that, or
I'm sure. How else would we
maybe
pay
for the parks, but the greenbelt could just be like nature. That's
Well,
there, right?
no, I mean they still have management services go out there and like remove debris and things like that. I mean, I don't know how much work actually gets done down there, but you'll see people going down there working sometimes.
How do you feel about the pandemic lockdowns?
They are tyrannical, and local and state officials that enforce them belong in jail.
I kind of agree with you for this particular pandemic. Well, for COVID, right? For like
Sure.
the fact that it has a pretty low death rate.
Is there another pandemic?
Well, Bill Gates said there might be a pandemic too, But we're not talking about this is Convos in the Pedicab. This isn't Convos about Bill Gates and the Pedicab. But if you had a virus that had like a 20% death rate that was just as contagious as COVID, like it's also going to be fascist and tyrannical to make people go to work when there's a virus with a 20% death rate that's as contagious as COVID. So it's like,
But no one's arguing to make people go to work. You just
but
say,
if you don't
go to work if you don't
right,
want to go
but
to
then
work.
you get fired and then you get evicted and then all that other stuff happens. So
Sure.
there's got to be like I do think
But
that
if 20% of the population dies, you're going to have much bigger problems than unemployment.
no, I know, but what I'm saying though is that if you had a virus that had that kind of a ratio,
Sure.
you're gonna have to no one's gonna call a shutdown tyrannical. When you know what I mean? Because it changes the game up when when
Yes,
things are more severe.
Perception may change.
Perception changes reality.
But that doesn't mean that it's not tyrannical. I would still. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to feel until I'm in a situation where there's a pandemic that is highly contagious and killing 20% of the population. But even then, I would still say that's tyrannical. Like, if it's killing 20% of the population, I don't think that necessarily means that the other 4/5 of the people
should be not allowed to do stuff.
should not. They should starve or
right. No, I understand. But what I'm saying though is just to backtrack is that we need better social safety nets. Like, if there's one thing that this virus did show is that there have to be and it doesn't mean that we get communism. I'm not trying to say that we need socialism or communism or any of that shit, okay? But what I'm saying though is that
is this communism in the pedicab?
No, get out of here. No, listen, we're not talking about that. If you work for a company and you get COVID because of how contagious it is, you should be you should get paid to miss work until you no longer have symptoms, because there are people out there who will have COVID or might be afraid they have COVID, but they're so scared of not paying their bills, losing their homes, you know what I mean, getting evicted, that they'd be going to work anyway, and you could create an outbreak because of that. So you got to do something, man. There's got to be some kind of tweaks that we should be doing to our system. There are some common sense tweaks to our system that we probably should think about.
There's already paid sick leave. So
what if you used it all?
Then you talk to your employer and you make you try to bargain.
Okay, but what if you're self-employed? What if you're somebody like myself? I don't get paid sick leave. I'm a self-employed independent contractor.
Yeah.
What if you're what if you're a bartender? What if you work at a restaurant? How are you gonna get how does that work when most of the money you get is off tips? There's got to be some that's what I mean. There's got to be when you're in a situation like that for some of these outliers, there should be some money put aside from the government, not a lot, but just some, to just pay people to not spread deadly viruses or highly contagious viruses.
Well, so then there's a slippery slope of why just this disease. Then they'll say that the flu, they're going to pay you to stay home when you have the flu. They're going to pay you to stay home when you have anything.
Right, and we shouldn't go down that slippery slope. But
that's
when
that's the way the politics works.
But it works like that no matter what.
I agree with you. That's what I'm saying. That's the way it works. That's the way politics is done. It's universal basic income, Andrew Wang is saying
Yang.
Andrew Yang, sorry, Jesus.
It's Yang, Brad.
Sorry. What did I say? Wang?
Yeah.
God. He's saying $1,500 a month universal.
12.
He's 15.
I said 12. He says he wants to give people $1,500 to take the vaccine.
No, I'm talking. No, when he was running for president.
Yeah, it was 1,200.
It was 15.
No, it wasn't. It was 12. Or it was it was like 1,000 or 12 or something. Yeah.
Jamie, can you pull that up?
Yeah, we have a Charlie who is Jamie, but it's.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, whether it's 1,200 or 1,500, my point remains the same. That there's nothing stopping the next politician from saying 2,000 or 2,500 just to buy votes. It's the government is always going to expand and make bigger to win votes to gain power.
But I honestly think UBI would be a good thing to have anyway.
I totally disagree. But
No way, UBI is great for markets. It would stimulate the stock market so fucking much if they had UBI, because you automatically have investing income.
It would. Wait, hold on. So it might create like a small, like in the beginning, it might do that because people might use it for that. But in the end, it's going to increase inflation because they're not going to get rid of other government programs.
Dude,
That's just not going to happen.
thanks to all the CARES Act stuff, I was buying Bitcoin with all my unemployment when I was.
Yeah, but you are an outlier.
But yeah, so I like it. It was good. It'd be good for me.
Yes, for you, for
So
sure.
that's what I'm talking about. Like
you
when it comes to policies, I support things that I benefit from.
Yes, that is a smart thing to do. But I mean, you're taking from someone else's pocket to do that. You're taking from either your neighbor's pocket or my children's future's pocket to buy that Bitcoin.
You could be buying Bitcoin too with some of your unemployment if you had it.
I could, but then I would be taking. I mean, then I'd be taking from someone else's pocket to do that, and I just don't think that's fair.
You're such a good guy.
I think
You're
I am.
such a good guy,
I
Brad.
think I am, for sure. I try to be at least. But when it comes to the pandemic, I don't think the government should be paying people to stay home. I think the government should just get out of the way and let people work if they can work, if they want to work, and allow the free market to take care of it.
Sure, but there should also be some contingency plans in case the hospitals and all that stuff do get like grossly overwhelmed. Like there should always be a backup plan. That's all. I agree with you, but there should be backup plans in place to make sure that like if shit really hits the fan, people are okay. I have no problem with
backup plans by whom? By the government?
Backup plans voted by us that are implemented by the government.
So we would vote on the plan, or we would vote on the people to make the plan?
Well, I think that you vote on the people to make the plan, and then the people need to actually be involved and listen to your concerns.
Well,
so that also brings it down to the other slope is like, well, if your elected officials don't want to listen to you and they don't respond to you based on how we talked with some of our councilmen, then it's like, well, why do you trust the government at all if they can't even respond to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure of a government program that works well. I mean, there may be one, but it's not very common. They're usually very bloated and very wasteful, and lots
the fire department works okay, right?
I don't know. Does it?
Yeah, the fire department seems like no one ever complains about the fire department.
Yeah, I think it would be kind of hard to complain about the fire department.
Yeah, nobody complains about the fire department.
I have no idea. I've not looked into the issue. Could they save some money? Maybe. Could they be less expensive and still do a good job? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
but I'm not. I mean, of all the things, like I'm not going to go down the route of like, you firefighters, why I oughta.
Yeah. No, I understand that completely. But I'm just saying that there's always a compromise. There's always points of every like an opposing group that like an opposing political viewpoint.
Yeah.
That you could like adapt to make the system better. That's all. That's what I'm saying. There's always like a couple of like small little things that you could adapt to make things better. And there should be an open-mindedness to like be willing to adapt some of those viewpoints to make things better.
Yeah, maybe so.
Like,
I mean,
do you think they should forgive? Hey, do you think they should forgive the student loan debt?
No.
What if it was a contingency? Do you think the vaccine should be mandatory?
No.
Fuck no, right? Absolutely not.
No.
100%. Vaccine should never, ever, ever be mandatory, right? But here's one way. This is my philosophy or my theory. One way to ensure that this vaccine is never mandatory, Brad, you want to know what that is?
How?
You just forgive the student loan debt of everybody who wants to take the vaccine.
No, I don't. Just don't do either one of them.
I'm
It
just
would be
saying,
much
like
better.
that would be like that compromise. I feel would just be phenomenal. Like
You're paying. I mean, you're paying.
you open up the economy, and you open up ownership opportunities, and you open up investing opportunities for a whole large amount of people that feel so disenfranchised with this country that forgiving some of that loan debt might actually be good for markets and good for private ownership, and not expedite this crazy corporatism that's taking place. A and B. You'll never have to worry about anybody being forced to take this vaccine if you just forgive the debt of people who just voluntarily take it. Because I have no student debt, I'm not going to take it, and then I don't have to ever worry about being forced to take it because I don't have any student debt.
I don't have any student debt.
Exactly.
My wife has student debt that we pay, and quite a bit of it. But
You don't want that vaccine being leveraged over her, so I get it.
well, no. But is the vaccine free? Do you have to pay for the
I think the
vaccine?
vaccine's going to be free.
So the federal government already bought the vaccines.
Yeah.
They already paid for them. And so now you're suggesting that maybe they also pay, I don't know how many billions of dollars, but
I
a
think
lot of
that
money.
people should hold this vaccine. They should be holding these progressive groups. Maybe I sound like a lunatic by saying this, but they should hold the vaccine hostage and not agree to take the vaccine until their student loans are forgiven. She's like, we're not taking it until you forgive. I will only take that vaccine under the condition that you forgive my student loan.
I think that would work, actually.
Yeah.
I think it would.
And or if you don't have any student loans, like I want you to refinance my mortgage, or I want you to pay off $100,000 off my mortgage. You know what I mean? Like I think that's what they should do to like encourage people to take. If they did that, everyone would just take that vaccine voluntarily. That's all I'm saying. Like if they did that, it would be voluntary. What they would do with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're talking about that amount of money, is it voluntary? I don't know. But to pay the student loan, the student loan crisis is, grown to absurd proportions for sure. But it's not my responsibility or your responsibility that some people took out loans that they couldn't afford. They should have never been offered the loans to begin with.
The federal government also shouldn't be lending money out.
The federal government shouldn't be guaranteeing it, and that's why universities are so expensive, is because the federal government is guaranteeing these loans.
No, I fully agree with you.
So, I mean, if anything, it should be taking the university endowments, taking all the money the universities have, and using that money to pay off the student loans.
We're just out here spitballing creative solutions. Like that's what this podcast is about, to spitball creative solutions that could get implemented.
Yes, and I genuinely think that if people held the federal government hostage on the vaccines and said, "I will not take your vaccine unless you pay my student debt," that
might actually work.
they might actually get somewhere.
Yeah, there you go. Everybody wins.
Well, no, we don't win because it's not the federal government paying for something is you and I paying for something.
I suppose I see your perspective, but at least you don't have to worry about being forced to take this vaccine against your will under any set of circumstances.
I don't think I have to worry about that anyway. But yeah,
I don't think it's going to happen actually, because I've talked to enough people about this, and there's a lot more fear mongering about like this vaccine being forced onto people than necessary.
Well, yeah, well,
from who I've talked to, but at the same time, it's like if they try to do that, you got to fight back against that.
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, to be forcefully medicated is not a society I want to live in. But I think in California they have there's no right to refusal for vaccines for any vaccine. Like for children, you can no longer use conscious
conscious objection or religiousness. Yeah, and that's wrong.
So it is being forced in some states. Like vaccines are already being forced in many cases in some states. So I don't know why California would treat the COVID vaccine any differently.
They probably wouldn't, yeah. But in Texas, we're not going to worry about that. We should be good in Texas.
Well, I'm not going to worry about it even if they try to do it. I will find a way out.
Yeah, so will I. I think there are going to be enough communities that will.
Well, I'll call Batman.
All right.
He'll protect me.
Hey, he might. Hey, before we wrap up, I've been wanting to.
Has it been an hour?
It's probably been about an hour, right, Gary?
Only 45.
Oh.
You can go longer if you want to.
Okay. I mean, I think we talked about a pretty decent amount of stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Did we? It's your show.
I think we talked about. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well, you were really excited about my Instagram.
That was what we were gonna close on.
Oh,
we were gonna close on your Instagram. So Brad actually has the best Instagram handle in Austin. You want to tell us what your Instagram handle is?
Well, originally it was Austin City Council to begin with, and I mean, I was really into Instagram at the time, and then I got sort of tired of posting things, but I still wanted to sort of make people laugh with my Instagram, so I started changing the name a lot. And I was sitting in a bar in San Antonio called the Three-Legged Monkey, and just scrolling, like trying to find the best new Instagram name. I tried like Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, anything I could think of that would just be sort of insane. So I landed on T-Mobile Wireless.
Yes, Brad's Instagram is T-Mobile Wireless. Yes,
Spelled exactly how you think it
T-Mobile
is.
Wireless. Why'd you get that? Why the handle?
Well, I don't know. Maybe one day they'll be upset with me and pay me money to get it back from me. I don't know.
Hopefully, I can get a cut from that. That'd be great.
It depends on how much you want. I don't know. If they find it through this show, then I'll give you a cut. If they find it through more organic means,
But how do they know? They could find it through the show, but you have no idea like what.
I'll ask them. It'll be in the contract. They'll have to reveal where they got it from.
Wow.
I'll give
Anyway,
you 10% one way or the other.
Sounds great. I will shake on that. Anyway, Brad, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. This is an all new episode of Convos in the Pedicab. Before we go, just how can we get a hold of you?
So I have two podcasts, really. One podcast, Austin City Councilman. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I'm pretty sure you could ask your Alexa, and Alexa will play it for you.
But you should probably not have an Alexa in your house because they're literally spying on you. But anyway.
Well, enjoy my show while they spy on you. And the Cultivate Wellness podcast as well. It's a health and wellness podcast that I host. So, yeah, on Twitter, at Brad Swail, on Instagram, at T-Mobile Wireless. I'm on Facebook, but who uses that thing anymore?
I got rid of it. I refuse to use it.
Don't you have to have it for Instagram?
No. You have
Well,
to use it
I
to like, promote.
I have Instagram business, so I have to have that.
Yeah, I might just get a Facebook with like, Mr. X or something like that. Just to
Mr. or just Batman.
Batman. All right. This has been an all new episode, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Till next time.
Thank you.
All right. This mask is kind of uncomfortable.